Once upon a time, there were two half-sisters, whose name was Tam and the younger's name Cam. Tam's mother died early. A few years later, Tam's father also died. Tam lived with his step-aunt, Cam's mother. This stepmother was very harsh, forcing Tam to do all the heavy lifting from housework to herding buffaloes and cutting grass. Meanwhile, the pampered Cam had to do nothing. One day, she gave the two sisters a basket to tell them to go to the field to shovel shrimp, and promised, "Whoever catches the basket full will be rewarded with a red bib." In the field, Tam worked hard to catch a full basket, while Cam was busy playing so he could not catch anything. Seeing that Tam had caught a basket full, Cam told her, "Sister Tam, Ms. Tam. Her head is dirty, she takes a deep sip, lest she scold her mother." Believing it to be true, Tam went down to the pond to wade into the deep to bathe. Cam took the opportunity to dump all of Tam's shrimp into his basket and then 3 legs and 4 legs forward. When Tam stepped up, there was only an empty basket, so he sat down and cried. Hearing Tam's cry, the Buddha immediately appeared and asked, "How do you cry?" When he told the story to the Buddha said, "Come on, shut up. Have you looked in the basket to see if there's anything else?" Tam looked at the basket and said, "Only one goby left. I brought that goby and dropped it into the well and raised it. Each meal, worth 3 bowls, I ate 2 and left 1 to drop down to Dad. Every time you feed, remember to call it like this. Bang bang bang. Come and eat our home's golden rice and silver rice. Do not eat rice porridge with flowers at home. If you don't call it like that, it won't come up, remember." After saying this, the Buddha disappeared. According to the Buddha's words, he dropped the ball into the well. Then from that day on, for every meal, Tam saved rice and gave it to him. Every time he heard Tam's call, he would come to the surface to grab the rice grains that Tam threw down. People and fish are getting to know each other more and more, and they are growing bigger and bigger. Seeing that Tam often brings rice to the well after each meal, his stepmother suspected, so she told Cam to go watch. Cam hid in a bush by the well and heard Tam calling Bong, so he memorized it and then went back to tell his mother. That night, the stepmother said with a sweet voice to Tam, "My baby. The village has already started banning copper. Tomorrow I go to herd buffalo, have to take care of the fields far away. Don't take care of the fields, the village will catch the buffalo." Tam obeyed. The next morning took the buffalo to eat far away. At home, Cam's mother and daughter brought a bowl of rice to the well and also called Bong to eat as Tam called. Hearing the call, Bong floats to the surface. Cam's mother was ready, caught the goby and brought it home to be slaughtered. In the afternoon, Tam brought the buffalo back. After eating, Tam brought a bowl of rice to save to the well. Tam kept calling and finally saw a blood clot floating on the water. Knowing that something was not right for him, Tam burst into tears. The Buddha appeared again and asked, "Why are you crying?" The story told the Buddha said, "My goblin, people have already eaten the meat. Come on, shut up. Then go back to pick up its bones, find 4 jars, put them in, and bury them under the 4 legs of the bed." Tam returned according to the Buddha's words to look for goose bones, but searched forever in the corners of the garden and yard, but could not find them. A chicken saw this and told Tam, "Our department works. Give me a handful of rice, I'll cut the bones for you." The plate picks up a handful of rice and throws it to the chicken. The chicken ran into the kitchen to dig for a while, then saw the bones immediately. Tam then picked it up, put it in a jar and buried it at the foot of the bed as instructed. Soon the king celebrated for a few days and nights. Young and old, boys and girls from the villages all eagerly went to see it. On the roads, tangled clothes flowed back to the capital like running water. Cam and her mother also bought beautiful clothes to go to the festival. Seeing that Tam also wanted to go, the stepmother sighed, then she mixed a bowl of rice with a rice ball and told Tam, "Only when you pick up the rice and the rice for 2 matches, you can go to the festival." Saying that, the mother and daughter dressed in shabby clothes went on the road. The pitiful heart burst into tears. The Buddha appeared again and asked, "How do you cry?" The card pointed to the basket, said, "My aunt forced me to pick rice out of rice, rice into rice, then I could go to see the festival. When I finished picking it up, the festival was already dissolved and there was nothing left to see." Buddha said, "Don't cry anymore. You bring the basket out in the middle of the yard, so that I can send sparrows down to help pick it up. But if the sparrow eats it, when I return, I will still be beaten." I keep telling them this. Sparrow, came down to pick it up for me. If you eat any seeds, I will kill you. Then they won't eat mine. As soon as the Buddha finished speaking, a flock of sparrows landed in the sky above the yard to pick up rice on one side and rice on the other. They rattled and chirped in just a moment and finished, without moving a single grain. But when the sparrow flew away, Tam sobbed again. The Buddha said again, "Why are you crying? I'm so ragged, they don't let me in. You should dig up the jars that were buried the day before, there will be enough things for you to enjoy." Obedient plate, go dig the jars up. Digging the first jar, he pulled out a tunic, a silk robe, a silk bib, and a shawl. Digging the second jar to bring out a pair of embroidered slippers. Digging the third jar, he saw a tiny horse, but as soon as he put the horse on the ground, it suddenly neighed and turned into a real horse. Digging up to the last jar, he pulled out a nice set of saddles. Tam was too happy to take a shower, then walked in, then rode on a horse. The horse galloped in a moment and arrived at the capital. But when jumping over a stone bridge, Tam dropped a comedy into the water, unable to get up. When the chariot carrying the king crossed the bridge, the elephant suddenly stuck its tusks in the ground and roared, refusing to go. The king sent soldiers into the water to try to find it. They found a very delicate and beautiful embroidered shoe. The king looked at the shoe for a long time and then ordered all the women and girls to see the rehearsal, and whoever could fit the shoe, the king would marry. The party was even more lively because the women and girls jostled each other to the place to try on shoes. She, in turn, pulled into the house in the middle of the wide lawn to pray for a little luck. But not a single leg would fit. Cam's mother is also among them. When Cam and her step-aunt came out of the stairs, they met Tam and Cam told her mother, "Mom, anyone like Tam also tries comedy." The step-aunt pouted. "The bell doesn't even eat anyone, it's just a piece of trash left on the bamboo bank." But when Tam stepped into the comedy, it was just like printing. She opened the towel and took the second one and went in. The two comedies are identical. The servants cheered for joy. The king immediately sent a group of maids to bring her to the palace. Tam stepped onto the palanquin before the surprised and hostile eyes of Cam's mother and daughter. Although he lived happily in the palace, Tam still doesn't forget his father's death anniversary. She asked the king's permission to return home to prepare an offering for her aunt. Cam's mother and daughter saw that Tam was happy and hated it. Now seeing Tam return, jealousy flared up again. Thinking of a trick, the stepmother told Tam. "In the past, you used to climb up and tear a chamber of areca trees to worship your father." Tam obediently climbed the areca tree. When he reached the room, the stepmother was down here holding a knife to cut the stump. Seeing the tree shake, Tam asked, "What are you doing under the tree?" "The root is full of ants, chase the ants to keep them from burning you." But before Tam could tear the areca tree fell. Tam fell upside down in the pond to die. The stepmother hurriedly stripped Tam of Tam's clothes for her son to wear to the palace and lied to the king that Tam had unfortunately fallen into the pond and drowned, and now brought her in to replace her sister. The king heard that his stomach was not happy, but did not know what to do. Again talking about the dead plate turned into a golden bird, the bird flew back to the capital to live in the garden. Seeing Cam washing clothes for the king at the well, Vang stopped on a tree branch and told him,
"Drying my husband's shirt, drying the pole, not drying the fence, tearing my husband's shirt." Then the golden bird flew straight into the palace and sat at the window, singing happily. Wherever the king goes, the birds fly there.
The king was thinking about Tam unrelentingly. Seeing that the bird was attached to him, the king said, Gold photo gold you, is your wife, get into the sleeve. The golden bird he flew again landed in the king's hand and snuggled into his sleeve. King loved gold he forgot to eat and sleep. The king ordered a golden cage for the birds to live in. From then on, day and night the king was engrossed in birds, not thinking about Cam. Thank you quickly to tell your mother. His mother told him to catch birds to eat and then lie to the king. Returning to the king's palace, while the king was away, Cam caught birds for cooking and then threw the feathers in the garden. The golden feathers he buried in the garden turned out to be 2 peach trees.
When the king went out to play in the garden, their branches and leaves swooped down to cover the shadow, like 2 parasols. The king saw a beautiful tree shading, sent his servants to catch the 2 trees.
And then lie down to enjoy the cool air. When the king was gone, the tree branch straightened again. Since then, there was not a day when the king did not go out and rest in the 2 cypress trees. Cam knew about it and told her mother about it. His mother said, just send a worker to cut trees to make looms and then lie to the king. Returning to the palace, on a stormy day, Cam sent a worker to cut down a peach tree to get wood and frame it for a loom. Seeing that the tree was cut down, the king asked, and Cam replied, the tree fell because of the storm. I sent a chopper to make a loom to weave clothes for his majesty. But when the loom is closed. When Cam sat in weaving, she always heard the sound of the loom cursing her. Coke creak creak. Take your husband's picture. She poked her eyes out. Seeing that, Cam was scared and rushed home to tell her mother. His mother told him to burn the loom, then take the ashes away and dump them far away for peace of mind. Returning to the palace, Cam did as her mother said. He took the burned ashes to the side of the road far from the palace. A pile of ashes on the side of the road grew a tall, luxuriant sycamore tree. In the fruiting season, the tree can only have 1 fruit, but the fragrance spreads everywhere. An old lady near the water shop one day passed under the tree, smelled the fragrance, looked up and saw the fruit on a high branch, then held out her hand and muttered. Tea, she fell on her. She let her smell but she did not eat. As soon as the old woman finished speaking, the fruit fell right into the bag. The old woman took it home and kept it in her room, sometimes coming in to admire and smell the fragrance. Every day, the old woman goes to the empty market. From the fruit came out a girl with a body as small as a finger, but in the blink of an eye, she turned into Tam. As soon as Tam came out, he took a broom to clean the house, then went to wash rice to blow rice, pick vegetables in the garden to cook soup to help the lady shop. The piece of Tam recorded the small image again and then went into the fruit market. Every time she went to the market, the old woman also saw that the house was tidy, the rice was delicious, and the sweet soup was ready. She was surprised. One day, the lady pretended to go to the market, but halfway back, she sneaked back and lurked in the bushes behind the house. Meanwhile, Tam emerged from the fruit and worked as usual. The old woman crept back into the gap in the door. When she saw the beautiful girl, she was overjoyed, suddenly rushed in and hugged Tam and tore her shell. Since then, Tam has been living with her mother-in-law. The 2 of them love each other like mother and daughter. Every day, Tam helps the old woman with the tasks of blowing rice, cooking water, wrapping cakes, and making betel nut for her to sell. One day the king went out of the palace to play. Seeing that there was a clean water stall on the roadside, he stopped in. The old woman brought betel nut and offered it to the king. Seeing betel nut with phoenix wings, the king suddenly remembered his wife's betel nut the same way, and asked, "Whose name is this betel nut?" "This betel nut is his daughter," replied the old woman. "Where is your daughter? Call me here so I can see her face." The old woman called Tam out. As soon as the plate appeared, the king immediately recognized his wife the day before, somewhat younger and more beautiful than before. The king was overjoyed, asked the old lady to tell the story, and then ordered the servants to bring the palanquin to bring Tam to the palace. When Kamsi Tam returned and was loved by the king as before, he couldn't help but be jealous. One day, Cam asked her, "Sister Tam, Ms. Tam, how are you so beautiful?" Tam did not answer, just asked again. "Do you want to be beautiful? Let me help you." "Thank you." Immediately, Tam ordered his servants to dig a deep hole and boil a pot of water. Tam told Cam to go down to the pit and then ordered his servants to pour boiling water into the hole. Cam died. Tam sent the body to make fish sauce and sent it to his stepmother, saying it was a gift from her daughter. Cam's mother thought it was true, took out the fish sauce to eat, and cried and praised every meal. A crow flew up somewhere and sat on the roof of the house, saying, "Delicious and delicious." Mom ate meat, even begging for pieces. Cam's mother was very angry, scolded loudly and then carried a pole to chase crows. But when the day came to eat almost all, she looked at herself, and when she saw the skull of her son, she fell down dead in horror.